Hold up. Give like 5 seconds. We need to make sure that the joint fully cut on. Okay. What it do, YouTube, man? It's your boy Moon, man. And today we react to a video called Eve Every. I thought that said every. Even more evil. What? Am I tripping right now? Wait. Every evil human experiment in history. I'ma just say that. That's not even the whole title. The title say some bullshit. Even more evil humans experiments in history. How the fuck I'm supposed to read that bullshit? The nigga had a whole error with the title and shit. Like, what the fuck is wrong with this nigga, bro? But yeah, we back again with another video. You know what I'm saying? I know last time, we react to like, I don't think medieval times was the. I don't think we ever reacted to no joint like that. I'm not even gonna lie. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm just getting back from wherever, you know what I'm saying? And I'm not even gonna lie, bro. Like, I don't even know what's going on up here. I'm not even gonna lie. But we finna get to this video. I don't want to make the intro too long, you know what I'm saying? Every evil human experiment in history. Let's go.
Evil human experiments. Again.
Oh, okay.
What's up, you desensitized degenerates? Here's something to really wiggle your teeth at. Back in the 1930s in Sweden, candy was becoming all the rage amongst kids and adults alike.
Oh,
Children couldn't wait to tongue punch their circular sweets day in and day out. Coincidentally, there was also a surge in dental complications such as cavities and tooth rot. Studies showed that roughly 83% of children's teeth had cavities, which, believe it or not, wasn't exactly unusual, as dental care was complete garbage. So the Swedish government decided it was time to get more enamored with enamel. Of course, right off the bat, the first to be blamed were the candy companies, but they were all, nah, that couldn't be us. Right, guys? No, I don't think so. There's really no data to back that up. I don't think so. Sure about that. I mean, it might be. In reality, there just wasn't enough scientific evidence to put the blame on anyone in particular. So in order to bridge that little gap of knowledge...
First of all, y'all wanna know what's crazy? Google actually has, like, you know, little, damn, I don't even know how to explain that shit. But basically, Google knows why, you know, motherfuckers get cavities after eating, you know, candy and shit now. Now, I'm gonna keep it to me. I didn't know sugar rotted your teeth. I think it does, but it's times when after I I'm dumb. It's times where after I ate candy and I brushed my teeth, right, and I had no cavities. I used to have cavities back in middle school, but that was because when we that young, we don't really know to brush our teeth after we eat candy and drink soda and shit. So that's why a lot of us had cavities. If you're a grown ass man, you still got cavities, something wrong with you too. I'm not even gonna lie, cause that shouldn't even be possible. You should literally know how to, you know, keep up with that. So
the medical board decided to commission the Vipeholm study, which sought to determine a relationship between tooth decay and sugar-heavy diets. All they needed were some volunteers. But if some government drone came up to you all, hey, feel like munching on these bad boys until your teeth go gray? Unless you're an actual child with some backups pre-programmed into your skull, you'll probably say, yeah, no, and walk away. That guy asking me if I want to willingly rot my teeth. What an idiot. What's a committee got to do to get some willing test subjects? Easy. Simply just... There we go. In 1945, with funding from both the Swedish government and the candy companies, the medical board began performing government-sanctioned trials on patients in the Vipeholm Institution outside of Lund, Sweden. The establishment just so happened to have patients with severe intellectual and developmental disabilities. So, in the medical board's eyes, perfect cannon fodder for the study. Between 1945 and 1947, 660 patients were given vitamins and fluoride tablets in conjunction with a low-starch meal and no snacking. After the 2-year period, 73% of these patients had not developed any additional cavities or decay. Alright, so vitamins and fluoride are completely ruled out. Well, in 1947, the medical board swapped the vitamins and fluoride with sugar-heavy diets, which included sugary snacks, drinks, and a specially formulated tacky toffee designed to aggressively stick to teeth. By the end of the study in 1949, about 10% of patients had irreversible damage to their teeth. They were pretty much rotten to the root, being deeply pitted with cavities which caused agonizing pain day in and day out. If you've ever had a toothache, you know how much that sucks. Well, with these results showing a clear link between sugar and tooth decay, the candy overlords weren't exactly pleased, so the scumbags decided to actually withhold the results, publishing them 4 years after the experiment had concluded, resulting in public outcry. Now, of course, people were more pissed at the results rather than the method, which was just brushed off as a necessary evil since the research ultimately did very much benefit society as a whole. Back then, the severely intellectually disabled were seen as merely subhuman, with their forced participation being considered their payment to the society that took responsibility for them. It wouldn't be until the 1990s that the ethics of the study were even questioned. Really messed up. So, remember to brush your teeth.
Imagine being able to build an app with your name on it,
Bro, I gotta
just
stop
by
with the
thinking
ads,
about
bro.
it.
Like, I
Meet Base
can't do this
44,
shit, bro.
a
Chill. I
Oh,
hope
the
it's not
monster
copyright
study.
music, bro.
Not a study about a monster, but arguably a study designed by a monster. This guy, Wendell Johnson. He was an American psychologist at the University of Iowa in Iowa. The overall goal of the study was to determine if a child's severe stutter could be cured through positive reinforcement and encouragement. Well, that doesn't seem too bad. Oh wait, no, the study also wanted to see if a stutter could be created from being verbally abused.
Today, Junior!
Well, that changes things completely. Those chosen for the study were, of course, innocent, wide-eyed, adorable orphans, which apparently are always in great supply for such a situation. 22 orphans, ages 5 to 15, were ultimately chosen, being divided into groups based on speech ability. 10 of the children were considered stutterers, and 12 children had no stutter at all. The study aimed to see how both positive and negative influences affected the presence of a stutter. So, to cover all of the grounds, the study looked like this. The children were divided into 4 groups. Group 1A, 6 non-stuttering children being told, "Good job for being such good speakers." Group 2A, 6 non-stuttering children being told that they were beginning to develop a stutter, which they weren't, and told to get their shit together. Group 1B consisted of 5 stuttering children that were told that their stutters were nothing but a phase and that they'll eventually get over it. And finally, Group 2B, 5 stuttering children who were constantly reprimanded for their inability to speak well. It's noted that only groups 2A and 1B were seen as interesting and critical to the research as it would directly challenge the overall theory. Can you cure a stutter? Can you force a stutter? The experiments, though designed by Wendell Johnson, were conducted by University of Iowa graduate student Mary Tudor. Not this Mary Tudor, the psychopathic Queen of England, this Mary Tudor. She executed the study following only an approved script written by Johnson. Each week, she would talk with the children and document their progress. Group 1B stutterers were told that they would, quote, outgrow the stuttering and they would be able to speak much better than they are speaking now. Pretty wholesome. 10 out of 10. On the other side of the spectrum, Group 2A's non-stutterers were basically smacked upside their skulls, being told that their teachers complained about their speech problems and that they must immediately be corrected by, quote, doing anything to keep from stuttering. Don't ever speak unless they can do it right. The orphanage teachers were also in on the gig, being given specific instructions to reinforce these ideas to the students as part of the fully encompassing scientific study, which lasted 5 months. The demeanor of Group 2A's children changed almost immediately.
This happened to me when I was younger
younger.
because I had a horrible fucking stutter, like all the damn time, like from like elementary school to like middle school. Like that shit was bad. I'm not even gonna hold you. Like yo, I'm just now like getting rid of a stutter like before I got into like high school or some shit.
No issues, these children were now terrified to speak. They became withdrawn and hesitant, and some only really spoke with 1 or 2 word responses. Kind of like a bad date. So, how was your day? Good. Okay, how's your chicken parm? Good. Is your phone good too? Good. Okay, this isn't gonna work.
I hope they ain't pay for that damn
Okay.
thing. What the fuck?
The children would even go as far as to punish
I would've
themselves for
walked
any
out.
mistakes they made and would even isolate themselves from the other children. One 12-year-old girl even ended up running away from the orphanage completely. In the end, no child from Group 2A actually developed a stutter, but the psychological damage had still been done. with the children's communication skills being thrown into the toilet, which reportedly continued throughout their entire lives. They couldn't even tell their parents how much they loved them. As for the other groups, there was no statistically significant change in their speech quality. So, we have our answers. Can you cure a stutter by being nice? No. Can you force a stutter by being a dick? No. But you can cause long-term psychological stress by degrading and verbally abusing children. What a surprise. Okay, easy time's over. Time to really crank up the evil. The Holmesburg prison in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania in the United States was home to some pretty nasty human experiments from 1951 all the way to 1974.
He's right. That shit right down the street from me too.
Post-World War II, all hats were off for the sake of scientific advancement. Pharmaceutical industry budgets had skyrocketed and a new gold rush was created. Ethics were glossed over, informed consent was virtually non-existent, and medical safety protocols were shoved aside for the sake of progress. Medical doctors were kind of just told to try some stuff out and see what sticks. After all, you don't want those evil Soviets to get ahead in the Cold War, do you? Now, some of you more savvy historians might ask, well, what about the Nuremberg Code of 1947, which outright banned such human experiments? Well, American scientists waved their freedom fingers and said, no. See, that code was for the gross bad Nazi guys over there. We Americans would never do something like that. No, never. Anyway, here, try this new pill. It might cure cancer, it might make you smell colors. We haven't perfected it yet, but trust us, it'll do something. Experiments performed in the Holmesburg prison ranged from applying simple cosmetics to make everyone look pretty, to exposure to corrosive and carcinogenic chemical weapons to make everyone look pretty dead. These experiments were funded by several large corporations, including Johnson & Johnson, the Dow Chemical Company, and even the U.S. Army. Some people have rainy day funds, mega corporations have evil experiment funds. Perfectly balanced. Though it has to be said that these experiments were entirely voluntary, with prisoners being paid a few bucks here and there for their time and potential sacrifice. But when an individual is so desperate for money as to sell themselves to inhumane trials, is it really voluntary? Well, yeah, here's your $2. Same time tomorrow? One of the head honchos over there was American dermatologist Dr. Albert Kligman. When he entered the Holmesburg prison for the first time, he was quoted saying that all he saw before him were acres of skin. It was like a farmer seeing a fertile field for the first time. So that right there, that's an obvious red flag. That's not a normal thought that you should have. Inmate records described experiments including exposure to various STDs, skin blistering chemicals, radiation, psychoactive drugs, and carcinogenic compounds. The most famous being dioxins, which would become a key ingredient for Agent Orange, an herbicide which is known to have directly killed over 700,000 American and Vietnamese people during the Vietnam War. But that's another story. Not really. The US developed an herbicide that directly killed over 700,000 people during the Vietnam War. So, prisoners were poked, prodded, sliced, sewn, exposed, drugged, you name it. But this wasn't just happening in Holmesburg. Inmates, along with other, quote, throwaway humans, like those in mental hospitals all over the United States.
You know what? My mom did tell me that. That's the reason why you never want to go to prison or jail, whatever you want to call it. You never want to be in prison at all. It's because you're basically giving yourself away to the people. That means they can do whatever they want to you. It's kind of like, when you go to the military and the niggas can do whatever they want to you over there, because you just kind of like signed your life away. It's like that, bro. So, them two things you should never do: join the military and go to jail. Because either way, now you're owned by the white man, basically, bro. So, you know, or owned by the government. The government is evil. You gotta understand that. The government is evil. So, you know, they will do that to you.
United States were nothing but lab rats to the medical community. That's all the value they had
now,
left.
Now, look, imagine if they decide to do some shit like that now, and just like they said, it's literally a bunch of prisons that they was doing that in. Where's it at? It's literally a bunch of prisons they was doing that in. Y'all see the names right here, right? Imagine if they started to do that now. We literally have literal family that's in jail right now, bro. So if they do this, Philadelphia House of Corrections, bro. Oh, I ain't gonna lie, bro. That shit crazy. If they decide to do that now, bro, like, That shit over. I'm not even
It
going to
wasn't
lie.
just happening in Holmesburg. Inmates, along with other, quote, throwaway humans, like those in mental hospitals all over the United States, were nothing but lab rats.
Oh, we good. We gonna have to cut this part out though. I just did that like to make sure it uploaded, not uploaded, but start recording. Let me do that.
To the medical community. That's all the value they had left as humans. At least, that was the general consensus at the time. Prisoners would line up day in and day out to see what the new test of the day was and how much free cash they could get out of it. Yeah, I heard they'll slap your balls for $5. Oh, neat. I'm usually the one paying for that one. One prisoner by the name of Withers Ponton noted how he was laid on the table where two doctors cut open his lower back. They proceeded to stuff him with medical gauze and sewed him back up, only to remove the gauze 10 days later with no idea what they were really doing it for. But he got $10 out of it for each cut. So worth it. When the 1970s...
What? Yo, people are so fucking gullible, bro. Look, do y'all understand this 2 game? Like, that was so much money back in the day, especially in the 70s, bro. Bro, I remember I had this conversation with like a elder or something like that, right? And they basically said back in the day, bro, clothes was literally costing like 50. Like, y'all remember we used to go in the corner store and we used to be able to get like a honey bun for like 50 cents and all that. That's how much they was getting clothes for. Like 10 cent, 50. It was like everything was basically different back in the day, bro. So it was like you ain't had to need these whole things of cash like we do now.
rolled around, it was estimated that over 90% of the prison's population had participated.
When they got free, don't be... Hey, if they got free, don't be surprised if your mans pull up in an all-new fit and he got a suit. You know what I mean? So
participated in at least one test. It was also at this time that the attitude towards human experimentation shifted to kind of like a, maybe that's a bad thing to do. Although many great scientific advancements were achieved through these experiments, it left the subjects scarred for life, both physically and mentally. But let me ask you this, would you trust that a medicine would work in theory on paper, or would you rather have it be proven to work by shoving weird pills into real human subjects?
that's
Need to
evil.
run Windows on your Mac?
Yo,
Parallels
shut
desktop
up, bro. Fuck. That's evil, though.
There's medical research, and then there's just plain evil torture. Since you're watching a video about evil experiments, you've probably heard of Josef Mengele, also known as the Angel of Death, and arguably one of the most evil men in human history. Sure, Adolf the Red-Nosed Dickhead was the big stinky cheese of the whole Nazi operation, but remember that there were monsters that willingly and enthusiastically carried out his orders. Mengele was one of such monsters. He was a World War II German SS officer and physician at Birkenau, a part of the Auschwitz death camp in Poland. Since SS doctors didn't administer any treatment to sick and dying prisoners themselves, Mengele's job was to make sure that the inmate doctors were treating the prisoners to get them back to a working condition. Any prisoners who did not recover within 2 weeks were nonchalantly sent to the gas chambers without hesitation. And that's just a taste of this complete bastard's inconceivable evils. Mengele would use his position of power as an opportunity to satisfy his demented curiosities. After all, he was a medical doctor. Among his greatest interests were people with heterochromia iridium, meaning that they had 2 different colored eyes, very popular amongst the anime fangirls, people with dwarfism and other physical abnormalities, and perhaps his strongest interest being identical twins. Mengele had handpicked over 1,500 subjects, mostly children, who would be spared the gas chamber and even fed and housed better than the normal death camp population, but at a terrible cost. An inmate doctor under Mengele was quoted saying that he was capable of being so kind to the children, to have them become fond of him, to bring them sugar, to think of small details in their daily lives, and to do things we would genuinely admire. And then, next to that, the crematoria smoke. And these children, tomorrow or in a half hour, he's going to send them there. Well, that is where the anomaly lay. Such a human so void of empathy is truly horrifying, because you just never know what they are really capable of and how far they will go to accomplish their own selfish goals. His experimental designs had zero consideration for the health, safety, or the physical, mental, or emotional impact on the victims. he was given full control to do as he pleased. For his twin patients, he often performed his experiments on one twin and treated the other as a control for a direct comparison of results. Experiments included the amputation of healthy limbs, forceful injection of disease, blood transfusions, removal of teeth and organs without anesthesia, and even creating his own Siamese twins by sewing two children together. Perhaps one of his more infamous pieces of work was injecting adrenaline directly into eyeballs to change their color. The eyeballs would be removed from living victims and studied, with some being pinned to his wall as trophies. Once experiments were completed, he would kill off and dissect the control twin to report any findings. Out of his 1,500 victims, only 200 reportedly survived. Keep in mind that Mengele wasn't even the highest ranking medical officer or even in a relatively high position of power. There were many other evil doctors who performed their own experiments on victims. Karl Claudeberg had researched mass sterilization by radiation and chemical injection, contributing to the sterilization of over 400,000 people. Sigmund Rascher had researched the human limits and treatments of hypothermia and exposure to low and high pressure environments. Hans Eppinger had forced starving and dehydrated prisoners to drink filtered seawater to determine drinkability. Karl Valnetz had claimed to have developed a cure for homosexuality with testosterone-based implants and forced castration.
Wait.
There
I like
were
this. I like
dozens
this.
of
I like
other
that.
medical
A
officers
cure
who
for
hydrated
what?
prisoners to drink filtered seawater to determine drinkability. Karl Valnetz had claimed to have developed a cure for homosexuality with testosterone-based
I like this
implants.
one.
And
Yo, if he was still alive today, look, y'all need to go back and look at this man notes and then try to like figure something out. But you know the CIA not gonna do that. They not gonna let y'all do that because yeah, they gonna kill y'all for trying to figure that shit out. I'll tell you that right now. So
forced
might as well
castration.
just leave it.
There were dozens of other medical officers who conducted these human experiments, many of whom escaped prosecution after Germany had fallen in World War II. Mengele, like many other SS officers, fled to Argentina after the war was
that
over.
last cuz was doing God's work for real.
He evaded capture and survived until 1979 when, while doing a backstroke in the ocean, suffered a front stroke and drowned, left to float in the ocean like the piece of shit he was. In all, there were about 16,000 documented victims of human experimentation by the Germans, with about a quarter succumbing to their suffering. But it is unknown what the true number of experiment victims may be.
That's crazy.
If you're interested in other human experiments, check this video out. Also, remember to subscribe to see more.
21 minutes, so this is hard. I ain't gonna lie. Yo, that's the end of the video. I hope y'all enjoy. You know what I'm saying? I know I did. The only part that was crazy was the other cuz that was taking people's eyeballs out and injecting adrenaline into it. Man, what the fuck, bro? I ain't gonna lie. The crazy part is, it's only the Germans that was doing evil ass shit like that. I remember back in the day, I watched this movie where I don't remember what movie it was, but they put all these Jews into a Holocaust or something like that. And I think they started turning the smoke on and on. I don't remember what the fuck it was. But they did something in there to where everybody just started dying. I don't remember what they was doing. I don't want to figure out what the fuck they was doing or no, but that shit was crazy. I'm not even gonna lie. But I ain't gonna lie, y'all. Y'all be safe out there. We out. We bipping. It's your boy Moo. You know what I'm saying?